Now coming to the abdominal part. Now there are different organs. We'll quickly revise those organs. Basically, there may be short note on this, or again they may be part of your spotting or the Viva examination. So this is the liver where you can see the ligaments. You can be asked about the ligaments of the liver. This one, which is shown with blue arrow, is the falciform ligament. Falciform, it is sickle-shaped fold. What are these ligaments? These are basically folds of peritoneum, which are getting reflected from the body wall, that is parietal, to the organ, that is visceral peritoneum. So this is sickle-shaped fold from anterior abdominal wall to the anterior surface of liver. This one, which is shown by green arrow, this is the left triangular ligament. Here this peritoneum gets reflected to the left dome of diaphragm, and this side, right side, you can see this is the superior and inferior layer of coronary ligament in continuity with the right triangular ligament. The other two, which are seen from a posterior view, that is ligamentum venosum and ligamentum teres hepatis, these are basically the remnant of ductus venosum and left umbilical vein. So all these are the ligaments. Now there are certain areas of the liver which are not covered by peritoneum, that is called as bare area of the liver. So wherever this peritoneum is getting reflected, that is the bare area of the liver. This is the largest one, which is bounded by this coronary and right triangular ligament. So wherever it is covered by peritoneum, as you can see here, is shiny structure. Wherever it is not covered by peritoneum, it is in direct contact with the direct liver tissue is visible. See the posterior and inferior surface of liver now. So the extension of this bare area you can see here. Now other bare areas are visible. That is this area for inferior vena cava. This is the inferior vena cava which is visible, and this is the gallbladder. There is gallbladder fossa in that. This gallbladder is lodged. So this is again the bare area. These are the fissures for ligamentum venosum and ligamentum teres hepatis. This area is the caudate lobe, and this is the quadrate lobe of the liver. So this will be visible in the posterior and inferior surface. This area is important because this inferior surface over here is in contact with different viscera or organs. So this is also called as visceral surface. So how these viscera are related here? Starting from here, first above the superior superior, this surface is separated by the diaphragm from lungs, to lungs and the heart, mainly the right lung. And then after that, this posterior surface related with lower end of esophagus, and as you go to inferior surface, there will be stomach. So there is gastric relation over here. Somewhere over here, it is related with tuber omental of pancreas. In continuity with stomach, the duodenum, and then duodenum will change the direction. So there is a flexure of duodenum, and most of this right side is related with the right kidney and right suprarenal relation, which will extend into the bare area of the liver. So this is mainly the visceral surface. So this can be asked as a part of your viva, or it can be asked like this in your spotting. So that is about the liver. Coming to the next organ, that is stomach. You should know the again the position, anatomical position. Same for the liver. The right broad area should be on the right side. The broad area should be on right side, and the tapering portion should be on the left side, and inferior vena cava directed upwards. For stomach, this lesser curvature should be to the right side and greater curvature to the left side. And there are two ends, that is cardiac end and pyloric end, and there is a sphincter, anatomical sphincter, which you can feel, thickened muscular layer you can feel, that should be distally away from you. And this is the anterior surface, and not just facing anteriorly, it should be antero superior surface. So this is the stomach. Then next, what can be asked are the parts. So the part which is above this line, above the cardiac notch, is the fundus, then the body, and then the pyloric part, that is the pyloric antrum and pyloric canal. This is lesser curvature, and this is the greater curvature. This can be asked as a part of LAQ. Then subheadings can be like relations, anterior posterior relation. So anteriorly, of course, it will be related with the liver, with the diaphragm, and directly with anterior abdominal wall. Posterior relations are very, very important. This can be asked as a separate short note as stomach bed. The organs which are related posteriorly to the stomach, they will form nothing but the stomach bed. So again, diagrams are very, very important here. So this is the outline of stomach you can see. So what are those organs which are related posteriorly to the stomach? Are mainly the pancreas. Then you can see the splenic artery, the tortuous splenic artery, which is going into the spleen. Then there is a left kidney, left suprarenal, transverse colon, and transverse mesocolon. These are the structures forming the stomach bed. Then the lymphatic drainage, again, you will need the diagram for this. Different areas are divided over here, which will drain into group of lymph nodes like gastric group of lymph nodes, pyloric, hepatic, and the cilia group of lymph node, where the ultimate drainage will be. Similarly, for blood supply, remember, if it is blood supply, you have to write both arterial and venous drainage. If it is arterial supply, the stomach main arteries supplying are the coming from celiac trunk, that is the left gastric artery, which is a branch from it. Then the splenic artery, which will give out branches like short gastric, left gastroepiploic, and the branches from hepatic, that is the right gastroepiploic. They will anastomose and they will supply. For venous drainage, ultimately it is draining into the portal vein. Now coming to the complicated part, now the duodenum. So what you have to remember, which is common for duodenum, pancreas, even for the kidneys, because all these are retroperitoneal organ, they are covered by peritoneum, so they are not directly visible, and they are covered by all different organs which are removed. Now what is removed here is the transverse colon, with transverse mesocolon is removed, the liver, stomach is removed, then and then only you can see all these organs. And still behind, deep to this, what is hidden is the right kidney, you can see here, and the left kidney. So remember this diagram. And the kidney, still deep to the kidney, will be the posterior abdominal wall, and between the kidneys, the aorta and the inferior vena cava. Now coming to duodenum, it is C-shaped organ, and it is having first part starting from pyloric end of stomach, then the vertical part, horizontal part, that is second and third, and the fourth part. From there, it will suddenly the coils of intestine will come out, that is the jejunum, and that is no longer than the retroperitoneal structure. So this is the C-shaped concavity of duodenum in which the pancreas is situated. So there are four parts of duodenum. Again, there can be Elechion duodenum, having gross features of the duodenum and relations, blood supply and all. So now when you see these diagram, you may find it difficult how the relations you have to remember. So see this diagram, this is very, very important diagram which will help you to understand the relations. So now, yes, if you can correlate the previous diagram, anterior relation will have, of course, the liver, the quadrate lobe of liver and the gallbladder mainly, while posteriorly it is now the portal vein which is going towards the liver. Second part, which is the vertical part, anteriorly will be the transverse colon, some part of gallbladder, and of course the coils of intestine are there, while posteriorly now the kidney, as we have seen in the previous diagram, the kidney is there, and the part of inferior vena cava is there, and the posterior abdominal wall muscle, that is the right psoas major. Third part is horizontal part. This is very, very important relation. It is crossed by this dotted line, that is nothing but root of mesentery, which is crossing it along with superior mesenteric vessels, root of mesentery and superior mesenteric vessels. While posteriorly, again the posterior abdominal wall muscle, that is the right psoas major, then there is a right ureter and the other branches from the aorta like gonadal vessels. Fourth part, very small portion. So these are the anterior relation. It is crossed by again the transverse colon and transverse mesocolon, and now it is moving to the left side. So now here relations are mostly the left one, as you can see, the left sympathetic chain, left inferior mesenteric vein, left gonadal vessels, and now the left psoas major muscle. Interior, mainly what is important here is the interior of second part of duodenum, because there is opening of two major ducts, that is the bile duct and major pancreatic duct, into this opening, which is called as ampulla of Vater. That is the major, that opening is major duodenal papilla, which is about 8 to 10 centimeter from this pyloric end, and above that, 2 centimeter above that, is the minor duodenal papilla, where accessory pancreatic duct open. And what you can see are these mucosal folds inside. Then coming to the arterial supply. Now, up to this some part of second part of duodenum is developing from foregut, and after that it is developing from midgut. So the arteries are both, two arteries are there supplying it, from branches from celiac trunk and branches from superior mesenteric artery, and these will anastomose to supply it in the form of superior pancreaticoduodenal and inferior pancreaticoduodenal. So the basis for this blood supply is because of its different development. Coming to the next, again, relations are maybe difficult to remember. So again, remember this diagram here, the concavity of duodenum and the pancreas situated here. So it is a triangular wedge shaped area. You can see three borders and three surfaces clearly visible in this portion. This is the head, neck, body and tail, and this portion is the uncinate process. It is present in the concavity of duodenum. At least what you can remember here, the uncinate process is crossed by superior mesenteric vessels, and posterior to uncinate process will be the abdominal aorta and vein. One more important relation, neck of pancreas posteriorly is related with portal vein. Formation of portal vein is behind the neck of pancreas by joining of superior mesenteric and the splenic vein. Superior border is related with celiac trunk, which is giving out branches, and mainly the splenic artery will run along the superior border and is tortuous in structure, because spleen is moving with respiration. It should not get stretched, so it is tortuous structure. That is the splenic artery related superiorly. Inside, the ducts are there because it is the exocrine organ. The secretions will be carried by the main pancreatic duct, which is joined by bile duct, already we have seen, and the minor pancreatic duct. So this typical arrangement is called as herringbone pattern. Coming to arterial supply, again, some similarity is there with duodenum, that is branches from superior and inferior pancreaticoduodenal arteries. Again, relation is, this blood supply is related with the development, and branches from the splenic artery, they will supply the pancreas. Relation, I'm not going into detail. Already we have discussed crossing of superior mesenteric vessels, formation of portal vein. That is very, very important. As you go towards the spleen, it is related with this different structures, the transverse mesocolon, splenic artery and all. Now coming to spleen. Spleen, which is present in relation with the tail of pancreas. Now just you have to correlate whatever you have learned with the pancreas or the kidneys, that the outer surface of the spleen is related with the left dome of diaphragmatic surface, and on inner side it is related with stomach because it is present along the greater curvature of stomach. So there is gastric impression. It is related with the left kidney, so renal impression, and the tail of pancreas is near the hilum, the entry point through which the splenic artery is going. Only these relations are important for the spleen. Coming to small intestine, there may be specimen of jejunum and ileum. You have to differentiate. There are coils of intestine. It is 6 meters long from pyloric end to ileocecal junction. The duodenum itself is retroperitoneal, but jejunum and ileum will be having the mesentery, and it is suspended by mesentery from posterior abdominal wall. How to differentiate between jejunum and ileum? What you can see here for jejunum, these are called as windows. What are these windows? The mesentery will carry the blood vessels, lymphatics, nerves, etc. along with it. So the arteries which are going, they anastomose to form these arcades, and finally they give these straight arteries which are going to this jejunum, and these are called as vasa recta. These are straight arteries, that's why they are called as vasa recta. Along this mesentery, here the amount of fat is less, and the arteries, if you can see, they are longer and less in number, while in case of ileum, the arcades are more, the arteries are short, and there will be more fat between those vasa recta. So the windows are visible in jejunum and they are lesser in ileum. That is the main criteria. Why this is so? because there is less fat and less arcades. Here there is more fat, so windows are less in case of ileum. The other difference is for jejunum the wall is thicker, and for ileum the wall is thinner. The mucosal folds are closely set in jejunum. So if you feel the jejunum, there is tube in tube appearance, which is not seen in ileum. But what is present in ileum is more of lymphatic follicles, which is called as Peyer's patches. So that is the difference can be asked between jejunum and ileum. Now the small intestine, how to differentiate from large intestine? So three main features of large intestine, what you should know, are the appendices epiploiky, tinea coli, and sacculations and hostration. So what are appendices epiploiky? Are these yellow fat-filled areas. This is the peritoneum containing fat, and these are called as appendices epiploiky. Then you can see the band over here. This is called as tinea coli. This is the band of the muscle coat of this large intestine. There are three types of this, three locations which are present, at which these tinea coli are present. And then sacculation means you can see the intestine is coming out in some part and then again going inside like this, like a purse string. So this sacculation and hostrations are because of different length of the circular muscle coat and longitudinal muscle coat. So these are the three main features of large intestine. Though it is called as large intestine, the length is less, 1.5 meter only. It is called as larger because the it is more wide as compared to small intestine, and its two parts, that is ascending colon and descending colon, are again retroperitoneal. They are covered by peritoneum, while transverse colon is suspended by means of transverse mesocolon. Then sigmoid colon is also have the sigmoid mesocolon. Then there can be short note on this part of this large intestine, that is the appendix. It is actually a diverticulum from this, and just below the ileocecal wall. Now its length will again vary. The part which is attached is the root, and then or the base, and the tip can be directed in all these directions. The most common is behind the cecum. Cecum is the dilated edge, that is retrocecal, 11 or 12 o'clock position. It can be related with ileum, that is pre and post ileal. It can be the next common, the pelvic type, directed towards pelvic cavity. This position is very important in female patient because this can be misdiagnosed with the pelvic organ diseases. And subcecal, directed straight downward, 6 o'clock position. So these are the different positions of appendix. Again, you will need to draw a diagram for this. And this is supplied by appendicular artery, which is end artery. So if it is blocked, there will be the necrosis. And again, inflammation is very common because it is very narrow structure. The fecal matter can get lodged inside, get infected, leading to appendicitis. Coming to the next retroperitoneal organ, that is the kidney. Again, see, this diagram is important here, which already we have seen with duodenum and pancreas. They are just above the posterior abdominal wall, and above, anterior to them will be all these structures, that is the aorta, inferior vena cava, duodenum, pancreas, and still anterior to that will be the liver on right side and the stomach covering on the left side. So those are the anterior relations. So right kidney will have relation here of the liver, then duodenum and the pancreas, but left kidney anteriorly will be related with the stomach, the pancreas mainly, and the spleen. So these relations will vary on for right kidney and left kidney. Posterior relation, many are common because it is related with posterior abdominal wall. The upper portion is related with the 11 and 12th rib, and for right side only 12th rib, right kidney is at lower position because of the liver. That is the only difference. Then the lower area is common for the posterior abdominal wall muscle, that is psoas major, quadratus lumborum, and the transversus abdominis. The posterior abdominal wall muscles will be related posteriorly. So these are the relations, anterior and posterior relations. Kidney, those can be asked as a short note for the relations, or there can be specimen of kidney where you have to identify it. And these structures which are visible, these are the structures in the hilum of the kidney, the entry point. How they are arranged: the vein is the anterior most structure, renal vein, then renal artery, and posterior most is the pelvis of ureter. So this is now the right kidney, because vein is anterior most, then artery, and ureter posterior most and directed downwards. That will help to determine the site. So that is about the kidney. Now coming to the pelvic organ, the uterus, which is present between bladder anteriorly and the rectum posteriorly. This is the position of the uterus. These are the parts. Again, same like stomach, the expanded upper part is the fundus. Then there is a body and the cervix. This communication here is called as internal os, and this is the external os. From there, it is continuous with the vagina. So this is how similar to the specimen. So you can see the fundus, and it is accompanied most of the times by this fold of peritoneum. This is the broad ligament, which will contain the ovaries, which are on posterior side. Remember, ovaries on posterior side, and there are ligaments, the suspensory ligament laterally and the ligament of ovary medially along its medial pole. And this is the fallopian tube. This is the fimbriated end, and these are the different parts of fallopian tube. So generally the specimen of uterus is with the ovary and the fallopian tube. The most commonly asked question in theory is the supports of uterus. Now, as it is a pelvic organ, whenever there is raised pressure inside, the chances of pelvic organ to come out from their openings outside is common. But that is not commonly seen because there are different supports for these organs. In case of uterus, the main support for this is called as pelvic diaphragm, which is the levator ani muscle. Pelvic diaphragm is formed by levator ani and coccygeus muscle, which is present arising from the bony pelvis, and the fibers will encircle these openings of the uterus. So this is one. Then there is a perineal body. Perineal body is present between the opening of vagina and anal canal. Again, perineal body. There are different muscles in perineum. We are not going into details, which are have common attachment at this, and this is the main support of the uterus, and this is generally torn during the vaginal delivery. And distal urethral sphincter, which is a part of again urogenital diaphragm. See the fibers encircling the vaginal opening, so it will again support the uterus. Then the most important again support is this is the mechanical support basically. So whenever the pressure is rising, the uterus will tend to go forwards again this superior surface of urinary bladder. So there is an angle which is formed here, that is called as angle of anteversion and anteflexion. Angle of anteversion is between uterus and vagina, which is 90 degree, and anteflexion is between uterus and the lower part of body, that is the cervix, that is angle of anteflexion about 120 degree. So this angulated position will again helps to prevent the prolapse of the uterus. So these are the main supports. Then there are ligaments, pubocervical. Then again, very important, transverse cervical. See, the name itself suggests pubocervical, so it will be from pubic bone. So it is anteriorly placed. Transverse cervical is on lateral aspect of the uterus. It is very important main support. So it is called as cardinal ligament, or also called as McEnroe's ligament. Uterosacral. So now this will be on posterior side, going towards sacrum. And there is a round ligament from anterior-inferior aspect of the attachment of fallopian tube. Then there is a secondary support. This is not true support. It is just the peritoneal fold. The example is the broad ligament. Already we have seen. Then the peritoneum getting reflected from uterus in front to bladder. So vesico-uterine and recto-uterine, from uterus posteriorly to the rectum. So these are the supports. So ligaments you can see here. Not main supports, this one, and these are the again main important pubocervical going anteriorly, transverse cervical, and uterosacral. Coming to last part, urinary bladder may not be asked very commonly. This is tetrahedral organ, mainly when it is empty. This is the apex and this is the base. You can differentiate male and female urinary bladder. Posteriorly or base, there is presence of ampulla of vas deferens and seminal vesicle, which is present in male urinary bladder, which will help to differentiate it from female. There is one more feature of male urinary bladder is presence of the gland, that is prostate gland at the neck around the urethra. What is important here for the urinary bladder is its nerve supply. So there is sympathetic and parasympathetic component which will help for micturition and control it. But the most important control is voluntary control, which is by the pudendal nerve. If that is damaged, the condition is called as neurogenic bladder. Histology, I'm not going into detail, but this interior part along the posterior aspect, rest of the area will be folded mucosal folds, but this area where it is smooth in appearance, this is called as trigon of urinary bladder. It is triangular area. At the base there are two ureteric openings, and lower part there is the urethral opening. That's why it is called as trigon. Here the mucosa is in direct contact with the muscle coats. There is no connective tissue in between, so it is smooth in appearance. This is called as trigon of urinary bladder, which is seen from inside. So there can be specimen in which this can be asked. So I think I have covered most of the organs from theory as well as practical point of view. Thank you.